and welcome to the Saboteurs podcast. Well, let's get straight into it because we've got a lot to cover today, and it's been a really busy time for North London. So on Saturday, the 29th of November, we were sabbing again the Grafton Hunt up in Northamptonshire.
Yeah, busy is one word for it. We had an MP out sabbing with us for the first time in our history.
I know, it's amazing. I've got to admit, Philip, I remember when you first put out the idea that Mr. Neil Duncan Jordan might actually join us in the field one day, but I never actually thought it would happen.
Well, it did. And Mr. Duncan Jordan, who is the MP for Poole, and we had a journalist from the Observer out with us in the muddy fields and the wind and the rain, and both were able to witness firsthand the Grafton attempting to hunt foxes and briefly chasing a total of 3 foxes also.
And it's worth mentioning as well, Mr. Neil Duncan Jordan isn't just any old random MP, is he?
No, he's also the chairman for the lobby group, the New Hunting Ban, which is a parliamentary movement to tighten the law around hunting, strengthen the Hunting Act. And anyone who listened to episode 1 will be fully aware that the current law doesn't cut it.
I think doesn't quite cut it is quite an understatement. I'm sure all the SAB community would agree with that. But we're going to go more into a discussion about the laws around hunting after this episode when we talk to the director of the New Hunting Ban.
Yep, but for now, we'll talk about the hit.
The biggest thing I really, really want to stress is what you mentioned earlier. An MP, with his own eyes, saw a fox hunt.
He did. He had to stick to public footpaths, byways, bridleways and such. But we were able to get him to several vantage points where he could see the huntsman casting hounds into areas likely to contain foxes. And we were able to get the drone up also. And we showed him the huntsman doing the same there before being interrupted by hunt saboteurs, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. The point you made was that he was watching the hunt cast their hounds, deliberately sending their hounds into thick covers, which not only are more likely to contain foxes, but it's impossible for a human being to go in there. So no one could have gone in there and laid a trail.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Those areas did contain foxes. We saw several foxes fleeing those areas over the day. And you're right, the areas were very thick brambles and understory, thorn bushes. A human could not have got into those areas, not without getting stuck and shredded to pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And it is really unusual for us to see 3 foxes. Often we might see 1 or sometimes not any foxes, but to see 3 foxes, it really shows what a fast hunt they are. And, they were really sort of driving them out and scaring them up on those 3 occasions. But when the hounds did go into cry, the teams instantly found the hunt and they were able to spray the citronella to cover the scent of the fox as it ran away.
Yeah, they were. But sadly, they did chase a muntjac, which is essentially a small deer, for those who don't know, who, whilst trying to flee from the hunt, got caught in a wire fence and the hounds pounced on it. Our scout team heard the animal's screams and came running to save it from all the hounds, which had piled in on top of it. But the whole pack was there.
Yeah.
And the huntsman had to ride back, get off his horse, and he started whipping the hounds to get them away before we could finally free the muntjac from the wire fence. Yeah. The video will be out of that incident.
Yeah, the whole thing was just absolutely abhorrent. I wasn't there when that happened, but I have seen the video, and I must admit, after hearing those screams, I just had to turn it off. It was just too disturbing. And the thing that really has stuck with me was the thought of, well, what would have happened if you guys hadn't been there filming it and witnessing it? What would have happened to that muntjac?
If we weren't there, the muntjac screams only would have stopped when it was finally killed. I can't remember if you were there last in December 24 when the Thurlow's hounds ripped a deer to death.
Yeah. I know about it. I wasn't there that day, but it is a terrible, tragic memory. And the Sabs who were there have talked about it in detail. And it was just, I mean, it's haunted me ever since. I don't know how they've dealt with it, to be honest, having to calm this deer in the final moments of its life.
Yeah. And it's, it goes to show how sick these people are, that they can't see how wrong, how egregious what they do is.
Yeah. And as well, it's not just the actual hunt. I mean, the support who follow them around the countryside are just as unpleasant. I mean, we've got used to their unpleasant behaviour, but I really didn't think they'd be so rude to the MP who was out with us.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, these people who are apparently engaging in a lawful countryside pursuit, trail hunting, why would they be so annoyed? Why would they be so hostile to a visiting MP and a visiting journalist from a mainstream media outlet, The Observer? It's well known enough. If they weren't doing anything wrong, their behaviour smattered of people who have something to hide.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, surely the so-called proud representatives of the countryside would have relished the opportunity to explain how they don't hunt. And I mean, I'm saying that obviously with inverted commas.
No, they preferred to go down the route of abuse. Ageism was the first type of abuse they aimed at Mr. Duncan Jordan. As soon as Neil stepped out of the vehicle, one of them looked at him and said, "What are you doing here? You look like a pensioner." To which Neil responded, "Actually, I'm a member of Parliament." He then continued and asked why he'd just witnessed the hunt attempting to hunt a fox. And they came out of all sorts of bizarre answers. Very peculiar behaviour, very guilty behaviour.
Yeah. I mean, they really are quite an unlikable group of people, aren't they? And I've just got to say it again. They claim to represent the countryside. With what? Their ageism and let's not forget their racism. Yeah,
there was some racial abuse aimed at a black Sab we have in our group.
Yeah. Well, it just speaks to their character, doesn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, racism is a hate crime, and they, again, don't seem to think that the rules apply to them.
No. And let's not forget, at the end of the day, they trespassed on Forestry England property while they were hunting the third fox of the day. Yeah. Now, we were able to stop that chase, but we got good evidence of them trespassing as well.
Yeah. That's right. They were in, what was the name of the woods they were in?
Plumpton Woods.
Yeah. And Plumpton Woods is run by Forestry England, and you most definitely cannot hunt with hounds on their land. It's illegal. It's banned.
Yeah, it is. But, the sum of it is we can thank the Grafton, because we got every little display of their racism, of their ageism, of their illegal hunting, and their trespass recorded and stored away, and we'll be using it to further lobby in Parliament.
Yes, indeed. And on that note, it's time that we head over to our topic talk, which is all about what is going on in Parliament in terms of strengthening the Hunting Act. So I'm going to be talking to the director of the new hunting ban, Mr. Rhys Giles. Hi everybody, and today's topic talk is a subject I think very, very close to everybody's heart. We're going to talk to the director, Rhys Giles, of the new hunting ban, and it's close to our hearts because we need a new hunting ban, don't we, Rhys? Desperately.
Yes, this is why we're here. Yeah, exactly.
So why? I mean, look. Let's just say it. What is wrong with the old hunting ban that came in over 20 years ago?
So I think the intentions behind the original hunting ban were good, and to a certain extent, the expectation of people was that it would work. But the difficulty with the Hunting Act 2004 is essentially that it expected people to go with their best intentions. So it has the intention part written in. Essentially, if someone pursues and or kills a fox with hounds, or mammals, I should say, with hounds, then a way to get away from that is to say that it wasn't your intention to do so. And I always think, imagine how many more speeding offences there would be if it was okay to say it was an accident when you were speeding, you know.
So the spirit of the law as it was then has certainly not been upheld, has it?
No. Soon after the Hunting Act 2004 came into effect in 2005, hunt saboteurs and monitors reported that hunts were going out and essentially behaving in exactly the same way they always had done. I mean, there were a lot of hunters that said that they would do this, and I think some people just hoped that it wouldn't come to fruition. But what we have had in the intervening years is this excuse that they call trail hunting. Trail hunting supposedly being that they are laying a trail of scent which the hounds are going to follow instead of following a fox or other mammals as they claim to have done so. We all know that it's a lie. I think a lot of people knew from the first season after the ban came into effect that it was a lie. It essentially only exists on paper, and they only trot it out as a story when they are in the press. We know, going out and sabotaging hunts, that they don't even pretend to lay trails. We had with us Neil Duncan Jordan MP a few weeks ago, and he saw for himself they had someone with a little tabard on that said trail layer, and she proceeded to ride in exactly the opposite direction that the hounds were actually running in, and was then not seen for most of the day. So it
So we'll go into more detail about what's actually in the new hunting ban, but just going back in time a little bit. So obviously, let's face it, under a Conservative government, there would never be any tightening of the law. So for 14 years, everybody just had to wait patiently and get out there sabbing or doing whatever they're doing. So you and I, Rhys, are both sabs with North London Hunt Saboteurs. And I remember it was before the change of government. You and I were on a protest outside Hatfield House on a freezing cold, whatever month it was, holding a banner with other people because they allow hunting on their land. And I just remember turning to you and saying, Rhys, we can't keep doing this. As soon as the government has changed, something has to be done. And I have to say, you took the baton and you ran with it, which, all power to you. So what was your thinking on a very personal level that you would, rise to that challenge?
So, even though that's a nice origin story to kind of have this realization that we needed to make this change or push for this this campaign, in actuality, it was kind of gradual and started with us doing these outreach talks. So going out to local community groups and the WI in one case, and basically saying, we are your friendly local neighborhood hunt saboteurs, and this is what hunting is, and this is what we do to stop it, and maybe hoping for some donations at the end of it. And then seeing how few of those people realised that hunting still took place the same way that it essentially always has done. I think essentially you end up going, or people broadly, the average thought was maybe that the hunts follow a trail, but then either decide to go off piste, or they a fox crosses their path, or and it's a bit of an accident, but kind of an accident on purpose. I think most people thought that, and that it had been cut down significantly upon since the ban. But as we know, in actuality, it's basically continued unheeded since the ban. They just had a different PR strategy. And so realizing that is the general public's point of view, and going, how can we bring these talks and bring this information to a place where it could actually make a difference, for the reasons that you've spoken about, because we don't want to be hunt saboteurs forever. And so we ended up emailing a bunch of different MPs that we'd seen had signed a letter in support of updating the Hunting Act, and the one that got back to us most positively, basically, was Neil Duncan Jordan MP. Yeah. So he is the MP for Poole, and he invited us in to do a drop-in session We went along with the North Dorset Hunt Saboteurs as well, so that he had that local connection. And we found that there was interest, essentially. And after a little bit of working out what we could do with this interest in Parliament, and speaking to MPs who had said that they hadn't really heard this information previously, we created the new hunting ban as a campaign group.
Yeah, because ultimately, obviously, it has to be lawmakers that that really take it up and run with it. And there've been obviously quite a few talks in Parliament with other groups, RSPCA and Protect the Wild and so on. And the purpose of those was to sort of, I guess really one of the things, Reese, is for the politicians to really understand what goes on and to understand that it's not just about banning trail hunting, is it? It's way more needed than that.
No, exactly. And this is, it's a clue behind the name, the new hunting ban. What we basically said was that a trail hunting ban wouldn't be enough. You and I know that trail hunting essentially doesn't happen, firstly. And so banning something that they were never doing in the first place isn't going to make a huge amount of sense. The second thing being that if you're saying that we're going to ban trail hunting, we can see this playing out currently in public. Whilst there is a majority of people who support banning trail hunting, there's a big gap between the number of people who say that they want fox hunting or hunting with hounds to remain illegal and the number of people that say they want to ban trail hunting. It's about 30% difference, 81% versus 50%. And that gap is due to the obfuscation that the hunting lobby has put in place, where they say, well, why would you ban trail hunting? Trail hunting is what we want to do to protect the animals, And so they've got a point, right? It's why would we ban trail hunting? Well, we're banning trail hunting because it's the excuse. But we need to go further, because otherwise they'll just think of another excuse, and we need to make sure that whatever law we put into place is going to be comprehensive and that we don't have to revisit this again in 20 years or 21 or 22 years, depending on how long it takes for them to do it this time.
And that's such an important point you've made about the public perception. You're referring to a YouGov poll, and it's really quite extraordinary and just shows how that lie has just, really taken force, hasn't it? And most people, 81%, I think, want fox hunting banned, but only, I can't remember, 50 odd percent think you should ban trail hunting. So it's really important that message gets out there and it doesn't muddy the waters of a true ban coming into force.
Yeah, and absolutely. This is a complex topic, right? Before we start sabbing, I think it's you realise how little you know about this when you first go out and see a fox hunt, and people are essentially using a whole bunch of terminology that you don't know about. And then you're not only looking at the terminology of the hunt on the day, you're looking at what the background is, and you have to discuss things like drag hunting and hound trailing, which a lot of people don't know exists as well. It's a specific sport. Things like clean boot hunting and how that works and how that would tie into it. Looking at how the hunts actually has defended themselves in court up to this point. And so that's why the goal of the new hunting ban was to bring together a lot of experts and legal experts as well as activists and campaigners. We've had talks from senior police officers. We've had talks, as you said, from the RSPCA, from the League Against Cruel Sports. Bring them all together with MPs to discuss what would the best possible law look like. The comparison I always make is with the London Living Wage. Is that essentially what the London Living Wage campaign did, the London Living Wage Foundation did, was to go out and do the research and look at the statistics and understand pricing and inflation and all the rest of it, and at the end of it come up with a number. And that number was what they could hold the government to account against. And so for us, it's saying we've done all of the research, we have the experience behind us, we've brought all these people together to discuss this. We did a public consultation ourselves, an open consultation where we had a few thousand responses to work out what people agreed with, disagreed with, put our ideas to the test. And then we have now come out and published our legislative recommendations, which we stand by and think are the gold standard in hunting law. And so that's what, going into the consultation and going into the writing of legislation by the government, that's what we are going to be comparing what they come out with to, and asking people to kind of gather around. You've got this ready-made set of of law, and so we can push people towards
Absolutely. And I mean, you just touched on this, and
Yeah.
you referred to clean boot hunting, drag hunting, and just well, maybe you could sort of say a little bit about exactly what they are in relation to fox hunting, and how the new legislation, you actually don't want to shut those organisations down, but likewise you don't want actual hunters to say, oh, we're going to be a clean boot hunting group, and then again, slip through the net.
Sure. So I think it's fair to say that there's three main types of hunting, and whilst one is kind of massive, you've got 150-ish quote unquote trail hunts in the country, across the country, who are, as we say, trail hunting isn't really a thing other than on paper. They are fox hunts, and there are stag hunts, of course, and there are mink hunts, and but for simplicity, fox hunting is the most quote unquote most popular type of hunting that we've got across the country. Now, drag hunting is annoyingly very similar to what trail hunting would be if trail hunting happened. So drag hunting, it is someone going out and usually on horseback, I think, rather than on a quad bike or on foot or anything, dragging a scent behind them. And these scents are not animal based. I think they are usually aniseed. Scent rags, they drag behind them and create this route, which then foxhounds who have been trained on that scent will follow with riders on horseback. Now, for the uninitiated, they may say, but that's trail hunting, isn't it? The real differences that we've got between drag hunting and trail hunting, and it kind of belies why trail hunts in 2000 or hunts in 2004, 2005 didn't just rebrand as drag hunts, is that drag hunts and the Masters of Drag Hounds and Bloodhounds Association have very specific rules about things like publishing their routes, making sure that the hounds themselves don't show any inkling to chase live quarry, retiring hounds at certain age, if they do show an instinct to chase live quarry. All of these quite specific rules, and making sure that everyone knows what's going on and everyone knows that this is above board. While trail hunts won't publish even where they're meeting up, let alone publish the routes that they're supposed to be taking, because we know what they are doing, which is fox hunting. So how do you distinguish one from the other? Well, and I should also say, by the way, clean boot hunting is essentially chasing a human runner with bloodhounds. So there is no trail being laid apart from the natural scent of a person being chased, usually with bloodhounds. So we can kind of take clean boot hunting out of it because there isn't a trail being laid. Now, drag hunting and trail laying, or trail hunting, they're very closely put together, and what we don't want to do is legislate against something where saboteurs have never had an issue with it. I mean, we're all animal rights advocates. We're not going to shed any tears if fewer dogs and fewer horses are used for entertainment purposes. However, it's never been something where they've been accused of chasing live quarry. Now, what we've done and come up with is firstly to say that the core offence of the Hunting Act is going to be a person commits an offence if, by their conduct, a reasonable person would foresee a risk that a wild mammal would be hunted with a dog, and they nevertheless engage in that conduct. And so what you've got there is the ability for, if a drag hunt would ever end up in front of court, they would say, we took all of the precautions in the world to stop an animal being chased, and therefore it couldn't have been. We then also go on to say that it's going to be an offence for entering dogs into areas that are likely to contain quarry. Obviously, trail hunts do that all the time, sending dogs into undergrowth where foxes are likely to be, into woods, into hedgerows. Drag hunts never do that. And then on top of that, we will also, what I'm calling the grammar school rule. What we know with grammar schools is that you're not allowed to build new grammar schools, and you're not allowed to expand existing grammar schools. But the ones that existed before those laws came into effect can continue existing. And so what we're saying is that those drag hunts that were members of the MDBA, that association that has very stringent rules, can continue to exist under those rules, which will then be brought into law. But we can't create new drag hunts because we don't want there to be infiltration by trail hunters. We've already seen in Scotland in 2023 when they changed the law, which is devolved to Scotland, that there are hunts that are rebranding as drag hunts and carrying on as they always have done.
Yeah. So
Sorry, that was a very long explanation.
that's terrific. It's really important to get it right and to be very precise. And so you've made that really clear. And just looking at other little bits of, exemptions and so on that you're hoping to close. We think that the law should be closing these loopholes as well. I mean, they're very sort of varied and kind of quite strange in many ways, aren't they?
Yeah, I think there are things that people would find surprising about the law as it stands. So other things that we want to bring in would be things like going equipped to hunt. So going equipped is a existing offence in relation usually to burglary, I think. And so essentially the idea is that you can be walking down the street with a crowbar and a balaclava and all of the things that you would need to break into someone's house. Before going equipped was made a law, you wouldn't be able to arrest that person in advance of them actually committing the offence of burglary. And so at the moment, if someone is driving on a quad bike towards a hunt with a terrier in a terrier box and a spade, all the rest of it, they haven't committed the offence yet until they interfere with the badger set or they obviously commit the offence under the Hunting Act. So we'd like to bring that into law. We're looking at better defining what hunting actually is, because there is a definition in the Hunting Act. We also want to extend hunting offences to including enablement and facilitation. So committing offences that would facilitate, enable or materially support hunting wild mammal. We've also got failure to prevent, which is basically saying if you see a hunt going on, it is your duty to call the police. Because we know that hunts go around with a lot of followers, and so we want to dissuade those followers who are also occasionally funding the hunt as well. We want to dissuade those followers from going along because it obviously helps legitimise but also helps support the hunt. That materially support would also include farmers that allowed an illegal hunt to go across their land. As well as things like security. We know they hire security. Me and you have been to hunts where they hired biker gangs to act as security for the hunt. So things like this, adding that into the offences, as well as, for example, landowners who are giving them permission to go across the land. We do want to remove all of the exemptions under the Hunting Act. Every one of those exemptions is either something that we know doesn't happen or can't happen, like, for instance, flushing animals to birds of prey, which apparently it's never really happened legitimately. And then there's other ones that are just used to as an excuse for committing illegal hunting. So things like using dogs to hunt rabbits and stuff like that. Actually, they use it to hunt hares. So,
and you touched on the terrier men on their quad bikes with the boxes. I mean, lots of people probably don't realise that those boxes quite often contain little dogs. And interestingly, I see the British Hounds Association, which is aligned with hunting, have now said, right, don't have terrier men attached to your hunts because it's giving us a bad name.
Yes. Yeah, so in early November, there was a video that was captured by the Lake District Hunt Saboteurs of the Coniston Hounds, or the Coniston Hunt, on a hunt, and a big crowd of men gathered around as they dug a fox out of a badger set or an earth, whatever it might be, and then throwing that fox to a pack of hounds to be killed. Now, that was filmed from beginning to end, and anyone watching this can go and Google that and find that video from the Lake District Hunt Sabs as well. And of course, that is an offence. It is a hunting offence as well as interfering with a badger set. And so quite a lot of people have been arrested. More than were in the video have been arrested so far. Of course, we should say at the beginning of that, I should have said allegedly it's an offence because they haven't been convicted yet. After that point, the British Hound Sports Association, the BHSA, sent out this directive saying, please don't bring terrier men on hunts with you. I think it was mostly because they knew they were about to get a whole bunch of attention around Christmas. No one's listened. We've been out on hunts, and there's obviously been terrier men. We were out on hunt yesterday, and there were a couple of terrier men with boxes on the front with quad bikes. They told them not to cover their faces. We've seen videos of people with their faces covered, etc., etc. Now, you're right. I mean, going back to the trail hunting debate, which we don't want to do, but going back to the trail hunting debate, why do terrier men have to come on hunts? Well, we saw why they come on hunts in that video from the Lake District. So, it's an important. There are, I would say, the majority of foxes that are killed around the country by hunts have been dug out. So it is important.
Yeah, and the other reason they have them on hunts, Reese, is to drive their quad bikes directly towards sabs. Try and terrorise them exactly. And drag them along the road and all sorts of nasty things.
They act as quote unquote security. Yeah. They are the people say it's a class war when we're attacking hunts because we're don't like posh people who ride horses. Well, firstly, it's not just posh people who have horses, but also the terrier men who are set to probably lose the most from hunts closing down certainly aren't posh. Yeah. And it does tell you something. I'm not sure how up to date the statistic is, but when we were doing these talks previously, it was up to date, and it was that no terrier man has been convicted of hunting offences that hasn't also been connected to badger baiting previously. So badger baiting being fighting badgers with their terriers in order to kill. They will talk about having soft terriers, which are the ones they use on fox hunts to essentially corner foxes until they can be dug out, and hard terriers, which will attack and kill animals. Badger baiting, of course, being very illegal with extra. In fact, some of the legislative recommendations we've made came from the Badger Trust and came from changes in the law that were made to tackle badger baiting. So we're trying to align that too.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because the pro-hunting lobby talk about tradition. Where their traditions are so important. These are the traditions, Reese, that they want to hold on to.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm sure there were a lot of people who were decrying the end of tradition when bear baiting was finished in this country, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who were decrying it when we got rid of hunting stags with hounds, and although obviously it still happens to a certain extent, they're at least shot at the end of it and it's done undercover, but openly doing that. I mean, one of the things about this country that people don't realise from the inside looking out, but from the outside looking in, European people, Germans in particular, apparently have a view of British people that we are obsessed with animals. We're obsessed with looking after animals and taking care of them, and obsessed with having dogs. It is a stereotype that I am incredibly proud of. Our tradition in this country, above anything else, is that we want to take care of animals. We love our pets, we love our dogs and cats and birds and all the rest of it. And, obviously animal rights activists like ourselves, we wish that we would treat them better. But in a lot of countries, it is a lot worse than it is here. And so when we talk about traditions, I think that is the tradition above all else. It is un-British to think that you can go out and kill wildlife. Wildlife belongs to no one and to everyone, I always say. And who gave them permission to kill that fox? It doesn't belong to them, just as it doesn't belong to me.
That's beautiful.
So this is what got me into hunt sabotage in the first place, is the same outrage that one would have if they saw someone shoplifting from their neighbour's shop or stealing from their neighbour's house. This isn't yours to take, so how dare you?
I mean, I couldn't put it better. I wouldn't try. And I think that's a beautiful place to end. Thank you so much, Reese.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Bridget.
Hi, Maz.
So today we're looking at why foxes are so often labelled as pests and vermin, especially in the context of fox hunting.
Yep, we'll be talking facts, figures, and voices that usually don't get heard in this debate.
Yeah, so I mean, the word vermin, it really gets used a lot when fox hunting is being discussed, doesn't it?
It does, and it's really not a scientific term. It's a derogatory term. Wildlife biologist Dr. Mark Jones once said that vermin is a label that people apply to animals when they don't want to tolerate them.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Exactly. So, I mean, one major argument is that foxes are responsible for large amounts of lamb deaths.
Yeah, a government-backed study has repeatedly shown that less than 2% of lambs' deaths can be attributed to foxes, and most lamb losses are caused by weather, disease, or complications during birth.
Yeah, that makes sense. So foxes are actually blamed without any scientific evidence whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. The RSPCA has stated that there is no evidence that fox hunting is an effective way of preventing livestock losses.
Okay, and what about that other big argument about chickens?
Yeah, again, more research shows that if you've got secure housing and secure fencing, poultry losses are reduced by over 90%, regardless of how many foxes there are. So, killing foxes doesn't fix poor animal husbandry.
Exactly. Human error, as always. So removing foxes doesn't actually keep them away anyway, does it?
No, not at all. Fox territories don't stay empty. Once one fox goes, another fox will move in, and that can often happen within weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, supporters often say that fox hunting is about fox control.
Yeah, but according to ecological studies, fox populations are primarily controlled by food availability and not hunting. So when foxes are killed, surviving foxes often breed earlier, and produce larger litters. That's a phenomenon known as compensatory breeding.
Oh, I like that term, compensatory breeding. Is that a fox that's walking across your screen, by the way?
No, it's just a very fluffy, annoying cat.
Okay. So hunting, weirdly, can actually increase fox numbers.
Absolutely. Professor Stephen Harris, who's a leading fox expert, he said there's no evidence that hunting controls fox populations in any meaningful way.
Yeah, I can believe it. So, moving on to urban foxes, like, for example, where I live, there's a lot of green open space there. We get a lot of foxes, which, to be fair, my neighbours and people in the area, they really love that little bit of wild in our urban environment.
Yeah, same here. I love seeing the foxes around my house. There are an estimated 150 to 200,000 foxes living in UK towns and cities. And serious incidents involving humans are so rare, very rare.
I can't imagine any incident involving a human where the human would come off worse. I mean, when I'm out walking my dog at dusk when the foxes are coming out, I'm dying to get closer to them to get some photos, and they just don't let you, although I must say they do show quite a lot of interest in my dog, like they're kind of looking, going, what kind of fox are you?
A curly fox. Yeah, no, exactly. Foxes are shy, really shy. And the British Trust for Ornithology has said that urban foxes survive largely on discarded food and rodents, which we know. Only this morning I saw a fox around a waste bin that had been put out for the dustman to collect, knocked it over and was eating the contents. So they don't eat pets or people.
No, they definitely don't. Our council has finally come up with fox-proof food caddies, which is fine because, food strewn everywhere isn't very good, is it, in the city?
Yeah.
And actually, another common claim about foxes is that they spread disease.
Well, of course foxes carry disease, but so do dogs, cats, livestock, and indeed people.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no evidence that fox hunting reduces disease risk. In fact, when you disturb populations, the effect can be spreading disease further.
I know. I mean, the Humane Society has actually said killing wildlife to control disease often worsens the problem rather than solving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, okay, on a more positive note then, what do foxes actually contribute?
Well, foxes can help control rodent populations. They remove carrion, so dead birds, and they play a key role in balanced ecosystems like any wildlife does. They're not villains. They've adapted to survive the landscapes that we've shaped.
Exactly, or as Chris Packham, the naturalist, puts it, foxes aren't the problem, it's our intolerance to them that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they're called pests, it's usually fear that's talking, and there's absolutely no evidence for it.
Yeah, and when fox hunting is being defended, for all the reasons that we've said, I mean, the facts just don't add up, do they?
Absolutely not. Well, we can manage wildlife, and there's no need for all the cruelty that goes into that.
Yeah, and we already are, actually, whether or not we like to admit it.
Yeah,
well,
totally.
That has been fascinating, Bridget.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, if you want to give us a follow or a like or find out more about what we do. If you wish to make a small donation, because we are an independent group, you'll also find our PayPal link there. Thank you very much for watching.
See you next week, guys. Bye.